Hello, my name is Sam and welcome to another video covering Tapforms 5 for Mac and iOS. And one of the things that I've been seeing in the forums is more videos simpler about scripting in Tapform 5. And one of them is a question around what are snippets. And I started making that video and I made it like 3 times now. And then I realized, wait, what's a field script? Right? I create these field scripts all the time in Tapforms 5, and then I saw a post that sort of made me realize we create this placeholder inside of Tapforms when we create a new script field. But what does it mean? And if you're new to scripting, and particularly new to Tapforms 5, it might not be immediately obvious what it's doing here. So in this video, what I wanted to do is spend far more time than you ever thought you cared about on the script field. Sound good? Keep watching. So, script fields. Let's go create one. I'm going to put it at the bottom here. Now, this form I've already used, and you may recognize it if you've been watching some of my other videos. This is how you create a field that creates a count of the empty image fields. Now we're going to use this script field as well to show one, how we can chain fields together, but two, how we can use the very first snippet, the if statement, to look at our script and do something useful. Now, after we create a script field, we got to give it a name. And now this name is used by Tapforms to create a template entry inside of our script field. And I'm going to call this YouTube script field. Hit enter to that, save it, update our interface in a bunch of different places. Now, we need to edit the script, obviously. We can actually edit the script here at the bottom where it says edit script, or we can double click on the field name, and that's a shortcut to get us into the script editor. What's the script editor? The script editor is our interface to write code and have a look at the various pieces. Let's check this out for a moment. On the top right here is the name of the script. So in this case, YouTube script field is the name of the script field that we're editing. If I change this to be YouTube example, and this time we'll hit edit script. We can see that changes to YouTube example. On the left here we have edit field script. If we were working with a form script, it would say edit form script. Below that we have the available fields, and these are all of the fields that are in the current form, and we can search for things. Why did that not work? Maybe the find field is not working. Name? Photo field isn't coming up. Love these videos. Find all sorts of fun bugs. This gives us a list of all of our available fields. If we had a link to form field, it would show up in the list, and the list of the fields in the form for the link to form field or the table would show up in this list as well. We don't have any link to form fields. This is a simple field, simple set of fields, so they're displayed here. We have a couple of different buttons here. We'll cover those a little bit later, but they allow a little bit of interaction between the field list and the editor, and then some extra options to work inside of the editor. We'll cover that later. This big area here, this text box, is the script editor itself. It's the actual script that we will be working with. By default, it creates a placeholder with the name of the script, and you'll note that it says YouTube script field. But we rename the field to be YouTube example. This placeholder only gets generated when the value of this script is empty. So when we edited it before, we hit save, and in saving that, we persisted the value with the old name. So if you ever get sort of to the point where you want to completely give up and try again, we can delete everything inside of the script editor, hit save. We can see that it's blanked out here as well. And then when we go back into the script editor, we've regenerated the template. Now it says YouTube example. Continuing on the bottom left here is our snippets. So these are pre-canned sample code to do different features inside of tap forms. My absolute favorite is the child records loop. I've done another video on that. I'll do another video again because I think it's the greatest, most useful one that I personally get value out of. But in this video, we're going to actually just do the first one, which is the if condition. But before that, we need to understand what a script field does. Moving along, we have a little play button here. And what that play button does is it runs the script for us. And in fact, it should give us a thing that says run script. Now, when we run the script, we have two panels down here. We have the results panel, and that shows us the result. And for our field script, the result is actually going to be the value that we see inside of the form. Now, on the right hand side, we have this thing called console log. And the console log is there for debug statements. So it's little messages that we can write to ourselves as the script is executing to sort of get an insight into what the script is doing, and if we have issues where it's not working properly, use that to trace that down. These two are separate so that the results go into the form and they're saved, and then the console log sort of, if we don't look at it, disappears after the execution of the script has run. Before we get too far, we have this little button here that makes our script editor bigger, and then at the bottom we have result type text. By default, script fields are created with the text type. If you create a calculation field, you'll notice that it defaults to the number type. You can actually change it here. The three types, the three result types, number, text, and date, are actually shared between calculations and script fields. We have this update records when saving. We also have a train going past that's apparently quite loud. Update records when saving will go and change all of the other records to have the latest value as demonstrated by the script. We have a done button, and that allows us to exit from this editor without saving. Again, if I hit done here, it says, do you want to save the changes to your script? If you don't save, your changes will be lost. And we also have save, which is a shortcut to save and close our script editor. Okay, so what happens when we run a script? So we get hello world here as a result. Our console has a timestamp here, so you can see that it's 12:42 a.m. in the morning. Forum regulars is in fact the name of the form in tap forms, and then YouTube example is the name of our script. Tap forms 5 automatically generates this for us, but it doesn't do much, right? So if we hit save, we can see hello world is in the value of this field, and if we click on this console log, we can actually see that it's empty. But if we hit refresh here, still empty. Why is it empty? Because we haven't logged anything to it. So let's go log something. There's a special thing called console.log. Hello, console. There's a special command inside of tap forms called console.log that allows you to interact with this console here. And so now when we run our script, you can say hello console. We run it a couple of times, same value. Our time updates obviously each time we do that because the seconds tick by. And now when we hit save and we open up our console and hit refresh, you can see hello console output. This is very useful for debugging. It allows you to see messages that are important to you to debug your script. In this case, we've got a very simple script, so we'll take that line out. And we'll hit save. Now, this placeholder, this template, creates a thing called a function. And a function is sort of a bit of code that can be run again and again and again. In this particular example, we're only calling it once. And that's on this last line here, where it says YouTube example. We've got some brackets, and then we've got our semicolon to say that the line is finished. What happens is when the JavaScript code is compiled for the computer, it reads this first line and it goes, okay, this is a function. It doesn't do anything right now, but what it does is it looks at all of this code from this opening bracket to this closing bracket, and it sort of compiles it and it stores it away so that we can run it later. And then when we see this line, it says YouTube example, and the compiler goes, the computer goes, I know this. You told me what this was before. And then these little brackets here actually sort of mean execute this thing. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go, okay, cool, I know what this is. It's this thing here. Got it. And you want me to run this. And so what's going to happen is it's going to jump up to here, essentially, to where it says that, and it's going to go, okay, line 2, empty line, do nothing. Easy. Got it. Line 3, 2 slashes. What does that mean? What does 2 slashes mean? And it goes, oh, I know what 2 slashes means. It's a comment. It means I ignored this line. And the computer skips this line. And these little comment lines are here so that we as programmers can leave comments to ourselves, to our future selves, to others about what this code means. Now, Brendan's created the template, and the template helpfully says replace with your own code. So it's sort of an instruction, if you will. Now, we can put these on any line, and anything after these 2 slashes will be ignored by the computer, which is very useful for trying to figure out if something's wrong. You can essentially disable bits of the program. Next line is var. Starts with this var thing, and var is short for variable. And what we're going to do here is create a new variable. And the way to think about variables is that variables are little cubby holes that have names under them. In this case, our name is hello_world. And inside that cubby hole, we put the thing that's on the right-hand side of this equals. So in this case, we're going to put hello world. Now, in JavaScript, we use these double quotes to say this is a string. And what it does is it says from this first double quote to this end double quote is the value. And you'll see that the editor for Tapforms has highlighted this in a different color to help us see that this is a little bit special. And so essentially what this line reads as is create a new cubbyhole, name it hello_world, and then put into the cubbyhole the words hello world. That's it. That's what this line does. This is actually the first line that actually does anything in this entire bit of code. Now, functions have what we call return values. And this is basically when you call a function, this is the thing you get back, right? So this is similar to if you have a service or something like that. Let's say you ring into a call center. Actually, call centers are kind of a bad example, but you ring and they give you an answer. The answer would be the return value. I've got to come up with a better analogy, but hopefully that helped you. Now, what return is saying is hand back to the person who called me, in this case, line 9, the value in the cubbyhole hello world. Now, we can figure this one out ourselves because this is a simple program. So we can go, okay, cool. Where is hello world defined? Hello world was defined here. What is inside the cubbyhole of hello_world? It's this text that says hello space world with an exclamation mark. And so what we're going to do is give this back. And then on this line here, we're going to jump back down, and this is going to have the value hello world. And when we hit run on this, we can see hello world. This is because the last line, more or less, of the script has YouTube example, which is then evaluated and returned as the value of our script field. Now, we don't actually need all of this to have a particular value. In fact, we can delete that all, and we can say hello YouTube. And what we're going to do is we're creating our string, our words, and so we've wrapped them in double quotes to say, hey, this is special. We put a little semicolon at the end of the line to say that we're finished. Now when we hit run, we get hello YouTube. So why did we have that function there? What did it do? Now what it does is, and we're going to see this a little later, is it makes it a little more obvious what is being returned and handed back to the script field. Because if we tick our update records, and this will automatically update the records each time we hit save, we can see that our YouTube example field now says hello YouTube. And if we were to change this to 42 and hit save, it would say 42. So we don't need that function line. What is actually happening, and we'll delete this and have Tapforms regenerate it for us. What Tapforms is doing is giving us this little bit of scaffolding to make creating a script a little bit easier, a little bit more obvious. So when we run this, it goes into this bit of code, it encapsulates it, and we can see return this value. Now, this is important because if I put return here, and if you're a programmer coming from a different language, this may feel natural to you, but this is actually an error, because return statements are only valid inside functions, right? This is our function between this brace and this brace, and we have a return, and that works. But when we are executing outside, when we're executing the script, we're not inside of a function context, and what happens is the last line that is executed is the value that is returned. Now, that might be a little bit confusing as to why this makes it simpler. So let's have a look at an if condition. Now, an if condition is a statement that allows us to make a decision. If this is true, and this is our condition, then we do the stuff between this bracket and this bracket. Otherwise, else, we do the stuff between this bracket and this bracket, right? Now, we need a condition, and we want to, in Tapforms, use a field value to do something useful. So we've sort of put the cart before the horse here. How do we get a field value? And this one's actually quite simple. We click on the field that we want, and we'll click on a little arrow. And what that will do is it'll create a new variable for us. It's going to give us a name, empty underscore image underscore field. Cool. And this is, again, a little cubbyhole, right? We're creating a brand new variable, and we're naming it empty underscore image underscore field. Now, the name of the cubbyhole has limitations. Essentially, it has to be letters and numbers and underscores, and you can't really use much else. Tapforms know this. Tapforms knows this, and it's going to replace the spaces with underscores. It's going to lowercase the field for us. It's going to do a few things to make it a little easier to work with inside of JavaScript. So this is the name of our new cubbyhole, and what are we going to put in the cubbyhole? We got a little equal sign here, and that means, for our variable, set put this into the cubbyhole named empty image field value. Now on the right here we have our little blue thing here, or purple, I'm not quite sure what that color is supposed to be, that says record. Now record is a special variable, or cubbyhole if you will, that Tapforms creates to us, and it points to this cubbyhole the currently selected record. And what we can do is, this little dot sign means send it little messages, run commands, execute functions on this record to get a value. In this case, get field value. Now the JavaScript API has a bunch of other messages, if you will, we can send, but we're just going to look at get field value today. What get field value does is it says, for this record that I'm working with, I want to get a particular field. And then fields inside of Tapforms are identified by this long string, FLD-B9, blah, blah, blah. Your field is going to have a different value. It might be FLD something else. But they all start with FLD. Now this is the internal Tapforms identifier for the field. And this is useful because it shouldn't change. If you duplicate the field, obviously the field ID will change. But if you rename the field or change the field in any other way, except for duplicating it, this will stay the same. And this means that you can edit your empty images field, and it will have a new name, but this script will still work. Now, what this means is that Tapforms will, under the hood, go look at this record, look at the field that matches this ID, and then put its value inside of this cubbyhole. Now, we happen to know that this field only ever has 0 or 1 in it. And so what we're going to do is create an if condition that says, and then because this is a number, if this empty image field, and the editor helped us there, is greater than 0, and we can do a bunch of different mathematical operations here. There are some comparison operators, but we're just going to do a very simple greater than. So if this empty image field, the value of this empty image field that's in this sort of cubbyhole here, is greater than 0, then we want to do something true. And what we're going to say is, there is an image in the photo field. And then we need to, I hit the wrong button there. We need to set the false value. So if the empty image field is not greater than 0, so that means it's 0 or -1 or any number of negative value, we can say there is no image in the photo field. So very similar message. One says there is an image, and one says there is no image. And in fact, let's rewrite this, and let's just make this no image in photo field. Make it a little more obvious that the two values are different. Now we're going to hit save on this, as is, and I want you to think what's going to be the answer. Have you figured it out? What's it going to do? Let's hit save and see. So we hit save, and when we see YouTube example, it now says there is an image in the photo field, which is true. There is an image in this photo field. It's a picture of me dressed up as a hippie for the Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers. Now if we go to Zippity Doodah, it says T no image in photo field. That's weird. Wonder where it got the T from. Yeah, where we didn't delete it. Now, what's happened is, if there is this value, which is, and we'll just have a look at this empty image field. So if this is greater than 0, which it isn't, then we do the else condition, which is no image in photo field. If empty image field is greater than 0, then we say there is an image in the photo field. Now you're probably scratching your head here saying, well, how does this work? Because you said the last line of the script is what is put into the results. But there is an image in the photos field is on line 6. That's not the last line. The last line is line 10. And it doesn't have anything on it. It has this little brace thing. And then some of the other things come from line 9. And here's sort of the interesting caveat. It isn't actually the last line. It's the last, executed line. So in this case, the last executed line is either this string or this string. And now you start to see, hey, wait, maybe there's a reason why we have this template. Because what it does is it allows us to do this with our return statement. Now, we've just deleted the script. We've got our brand new placeholder back. We're going to paste what we just wrote, which is creating our empty image field variable, or cubbyhole if you will, where we get the value from the record. We have our if statement here. We have there is an empty image, we have no image, and then there's this. While we're here, I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to press this button here. And this says indent selection. What that does is it puts a little space at the front of it, and the space helps us understand sort of the control flow of the program. So each time we have a brace here like this, we generally increase the indent, and then when we have a closing one, we reduce the indent, and then eventually you get to the bottom here. Now, I've just copied and pasted this, and if I hit run on this, it doesn't work. This results as empty, and that's because I deleted the return line. So let's put return in front of these two lines. We'll hit save, and now when we run, we see there is an image in the photo field, and if we hit save on that and go back to our zippity-doo-dah record, we can see no image in the photo field. Now what we've done is, when we put this inside the function, remember we needed to return the value that we wanted to hand back. Now this use of the function makes it a little more obvious that this return line is what's going to be the final value, because the last line is this YouTube example, and that's the last line of our script. And so whatever is returned from this function when we call it is going to be the value of our script field. Now, we can hack this a little, and one of the more common things is using return to finish quickly. And a common thing that I've done is that sometimes I'll make a problem. I'll create a bug, and it's hard to debug. And so what I'll do is put in return, and I say, there is a bug. To be honest, sometimes it would be significantly less informative, but we'll just say there's a bug. Now what that does is sort of what's called a short circuit. This is a not great example of it, but it means that we can exit the function at any point relatively easily. Now if this was without the function in a massive code block, we would have to do if else, and it sort of makes things look a little messy. So out of the box, that's why we get this function, to sort of help encourage you to use this sort of a return pattern, think about what the value of this last line is going to be, and work from there. Now, hopefully that's helped you. If you're new to scripting and tap forms, hopefully you've got a little bit of a better idea of how the field script works, why it's important to have this sort of call line here, because as soon as we delete that, nothing happens. So we have to make sure that this is here to call this to run this code, and then we use return to hand back the value that when we run is stored in the result and stored into our script field. If this video helped you, please give it a like, leave a comment, let me know what was useful in this video, what wasn't. I covered the script field in depth, how to have it return different values, how it works there, how the template interacts, and then we had a look at the very first snippet on the list, the if snippet, how it works in a very simple case to do simple math. There are other things we can do with if statements, but we used it to do simple math to see if the empty image field, the value of this field was greater than 0 or not, and then have a different value stored into our script field. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.